I'm Savannah Sellers. We appreciate you starting your Thursday morning with us. Joe's off today. We're going to begin this hour with the ongoing war in the Middle East, of course. The U.S. is accelerating its attacks against Iran. New video shows the moment the U.S. military says it struck an Iranian ship in the Indian Ocean yesterday. It is the first time a U.S. torpedo struck a vessel in combat since World War II. It's one of 20 ships the U.S. military says it has struck or sunk since the war began. Now, we learned that yesterday during a press conference from top Pentagon officials who projected confidence in the progress of this war. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth says American attacks will continue. He said the U.S. and Israel are nearing complete control of Iranian airspace, allowing forces to deliver, quote, death and destruction all day long. Now, Iran's Red Crescent Society says nearly 1,000 people have been killed by Israeli and American strikes. Meanwhile, Iran continues to retaliate with escalating drone strikes across the Persian Gulf. American citizens stuck in the region are still on high alert, of course, as they urgently try to get home, all as Iran targets U.S. facilities. We clearly have a lot to get to this morning. We have a team of correspondents and analysts standing by to break it all down with us. We are going to begin with NBC News International correspondent Matt Bradley and reporter Matt Bodner for the very latest. Good morning to both of you. Matt Bradley, I will start with you in Tel Aviv. Our viewers might remember, if they were with us yesterday, when you joined us, we could hear air raid sirens in the background. At one point, you actually did evacuate to a shelter while we were speaking. But we also did hear yesterday in this update from officials that Iran's strike back capabilities and just the frequency has significantly decreased. Tell us what we know, though, and what you're experiencing firsthand in terms of Iran's retaliatory strikes over the last 24 hours. Who's been hit the hardest?
Yeah, it's really interesting because we have been hearing from the Israelis that, yes, the frequency, the tempo of these ballistic missile salvos has decreased, and the number of missiles has decreased as well. But I have to tell you, over the past day or two, there really does seem to have been quite a few missile alerts and sirens that we've been hearing, sending lots of people rushing to the very shelter that I am in now. You know, we heard one just a couple of minutes ago. But at the same time, we're also hearing that the death toll has stood at 10 for several days now. There have been no deaths here in Israel from those Iranian missile strikes or those now from Hezbollah. There have been no injuries in the last just about 24 hours, though we don't know what happened just right now. Everything could change once we get more information. But the fact is that what we've been hearing from the IDF is that all of these Iranian projectiles and almost all of these missiles being fired from Hezbollah in Lebanon have been swatted out of the sky. Now, as such, yesterday we are hearing that Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv has started to accept flights about once every hour. The idea is that those flights will be accepted once every hour for the first 24 hours, and then it will go to 2 every hour. And starting on the weekend, we're going to start hearing about flights taking off from Ben Gurion Airport, Israel's main airport. Now, the Israeli officials have lowered their level of alert here in Israel, so that means that now people can go to work as long as their place of work has access to a safe room like the one I'm standing in now. But schools will remain closed. Now, I got to tell you, one interesting thing we've been hearing is that actually the number of injuries that have been reported here in Israel, actually, most of them, about 2/3 of them, have been from people rushing to get to the shelters rather than actually being injured by those Iranian ballistic missiles.
All right, Matt Bradley, thank you for staying safe. Stay with us, Matt Bodner. I'm going to bring you in here for the latest on the strikes against Iran. So we saw that video, and I explained this is really sort of a remarkable moment. An Iranian ship torpedoed by the U.S. military, something that has not happened in decades. Walk us through this particular mission and what other Iranian targets the U.S. is focusing on and the success that we're hearing from officials they say they're finding.
Thanks, Savannah. Well, Hegg said that his briefing yesterday highlighted that Iran's Navy is one of the major targets of this operation. Of course, the entire Iranian military is the target. They said they've sunk or destroyed or otherwise disabled around 20 Iranian vessels. That includes one submarine. That's all so far. Hegg also mentioned that a U.S. submarine tracked down an Iranian destroyer in the Indian Ocean and sunk her. CENTCOM then released a video apparently recorded from the periscope of that U.S. submarine showing a destroyer-sized vessel lifted out of the water by a massive explosion on her stern quarter. The Pentagon has not identified the ship in the video, but it does resemble the same class of vessel as the IRIS Dina. That's an Iranian ship. The Sri Lankan Coast Guard said that it had responded to a distress call from the Dina, located 25 miles off their southern coast. The Coast Guard said they found 80 bodies and rescued 32 crew members. And Iran's foreign minister has since responded on X, saying that the United States had, quote, perpetrated an atrocity at sea, and said that the Dina was a guest of the Indian Navy. The sinking of the Dina, located some 2,000 miles away from Iran, underscores the ever-expanding scope of what was originally billed as a focused special military operation within Iran. This is partially due to the scope of Iran's counterstrikes across the region. The U.S. at this stage says it's still focused on destroying Iran's ability to resist. So that means that in addition to the goal of the total destruction of the Iranian Navy, the American operation continues to eat away at air defenses and launch sites for missiles and drones.
Yeah, we're going to talk more, Matt Bodner, in just a moment about sort of where we think this is going and what's being signaled from officials. But Matt Bradley, let's talk about the thousands of Americans that are stranded in the Middle East as this is all unfolding. We have had many on our show. We're going to speak with more today. There's these mixed messages, right? It's like get out if you can, this list of countries that they're telling Americans they want them to evacuate from, without any plans really in place, without assistance, and certainly without commercial flights from airports, as you laid out for us a moment ago. Is there anything new here? Are there plans now to get them out safely? How can they try to stay safe while they are there?
Well, the U.S. government is saying that they have evacuated more than 10,000 Americans from the Middle East so far. But here in Israel, we've seen a trickle of people leaving by land. We went to a bus station yesterday here in Tel Aviv where we saw a bunch of Americans calmly getting on the bus, loading their luggage. They were taking about a 5-hour trip all the way down to the Egyptian border, where they were all planning on crossing over into the Egyptian city of Taba, where they're planning on taking regional airports or moving on to Sharm el-Sheikh. Time-consuming, expensive efforts to try to get out. And they said that they hadn't really heard much from the U.S. government. Some of them are complaining about this, but here in Israel, the journey really isn't that arduous. If it is, inconvenient. So there were a lot of folks who we spoke with who said, look, it would have been nice if the U.S. government had done a little bit more to prepare us for this moment before it happened.
Matt Bodner, yesterday we heard Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth say that the U.S., the quote, was just getting started. The Pentagon also spoke, as you said, to just this shifting strategy as it nears this one-week mark. We've heard quite a bit about expectation of an overwhelming number of strikes still to come. Lawmakers have been briefed on that as well. What can we expect?
Well, yesterday, Secretary Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, they claimed the U.S. and Israel already dominate the skies over Iran and that total air superiority was in sight. They talked about bombers operating ever more in the open. In terms of strategy, they said that they've been using a lot of the higher-end so-called standoff weapons, of which there's not an unlimited supply. There's been a lot of talk about that. General Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, said that U.S. forces are already transitioning away from those more expensive weapons, essentially to cheaper, more available bombs and missiles that tend to be dropped or fired more directly at their targets. He also said the campaign would be working further inland as they run out of targets closer to the coasts and the border regions. That all said, across the administration, it seems we're seeing a bit of a change in rhetoric. All week we've been hearing this operation will take 4 to 5 weeks. Over the past day or so, administration officials have been hedging on that, hinting that this may take longer. Hegseth himself said yesterday it could go on for 8 weeks, though his point in that comment was that he didn't want to put a time limit on the operation. So it really is difficult to understand what we should be expecting going forward, but it is looking like it could be a long haul. Savannah?
All right, Matt Bodner, Matt Bradley, thank you both very much. For more on how President Trump made the decision to launch this war, let's bring in NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen. John, good morning. Thank you, as always, for being here. Yesterday, we did hear from the White House for the first time since this war began nearly a week ago in this particular format anyway. We heard from Press Secretary Karen Leavitt. Let's listen to a little bit of what she said. We'll talk after.
The president found that through these extensive, exhaustive, failed negotiations with Iran, that they were hell-bent on death and destruction. The president had a feeling, again, based on fact, that Iran was going to strike the United States, was going to strike our assets in the region, and he made a determination to launch Operation Epic Fury based on all of those reasons.
So, John, the phrase "a feeling based on fact." Walk us through the latest that we're hearing in terms of the reasoning that the White House and the Defense Department are laying out for this war at this time.
Good morning, Savannah. The White House and the Pentagon have to make the argument that Iran was going to strike first. Otherwise, there would be legal questions about the constitutionality of a war of aggression against Iran without congressional declaration of war or without an authorization of the use of force. So whether or not they had facts and evidence that Iran was going to attack the United States preemptively, and by the way, just for everyone's purposes, it's impossible to know for certain that something is going to happen in the future, but there must be an intelligence assessment, or they are suggesting that there is an intelligence assessment that Iran would have struck the United States, as Marco Rubio said, in retaliation for strikes that Israel is going to conduct in Iran. So that, that's the sort of predictive nature, the intelligence suggesting that the United States would have been struck by Iran preemptively. Again, we're not privy to that intelligence. In fact, Caroline Leavitt didn't say that there was evidence. She simply said that there was fact.
John, reporting from Axios yesterday is sort of adding to this picture. Tell us what that is in terms of what they're saying might be the reasoning for the timing on the president's part.
So what Axios reported was that there was a meeting, or a discussion, I should say, between Netanyahu and President Trump. And in it, Netanyahu said to President Trump, this is not this past Monday, but the one a week before, said to it that there was a rare opportunity to assassinate the Supreme Leader Khamenei and people around him. And President Trump thought that was too good to pass up. At least that's the reporting from Axios. So that's the reason for the timing, was that meeting that was disrupted by Israeli shelling.
John, also yesterday, the Republican-controlled Senate rejected a war powers resolution. This was aimed at restricting President Trump's ability to carry out further military action against Iran, or at least do so without consulting Congress. Was this strictly along party lines, or what happened here and what happens next on the Hill?
It was almost exactly along party lines. So all of the Democrats, minus one, voted to block the president's authority here. And one Republican voted to block the president's authority. That was Rand Paul of Kentucky. On the other side, Republicans lined up to preserve the president's ability to conduct this war with the support of John Fetterman, the Democrat from Pennsylvania. And Savannah, this is sort of an important moment here, from a legal standpoint. The United States Senate effectively saying that it's okay for the president to continue this war with Iran. It is not as powerful as a declaration of war, not as powerful as a use of force authorization, but nonetheless, the Senate having spoken now in favor of the Iran war, almost entirely along party lines, with Republicans backing the president and Democrats trying to block it.
All right, John Allen, thank you so much. Well, we are learning more about some of the U.S. troops who were killed in an Iranian strike over the weekend. Family and friends are now speaking out about their lives and their sacrifices they made for their country. NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Kube brings us all of these emotional tributes.
The strikes in Kuwait were fast and furious, one of them hitting where a group of American soldiers were stationed, killing 6. 20-year-old specialist Declan Cody's sister says she still doesn't believe her little brother is gone.
I just remember all of our conversations about what he was going to do when he came back. I just wish he could have known one more time that we all loved him, because he was so amazing and kind.
Captain Cody Cork was the kind of leader a junior soldier hoped to have.
He cared about people. Hey, I'm not going to put soldiers in harm's way. That's what you look for in a commander.
Sergeant First Class Noah Tegens left his mark on everyone around him.
He is the kind of a person that's confident, but then respectful, easy to get along with right away.
And Sergeant First Class Nicola Moore was just 39 years old, the mother of 2, supposed to return home later this month. Chief Warrant Officer Robert Marsan and Major Jeffrey O'Brien were also killed when an Iranian drone got through the air defenses and hit the operations center where they were working. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs saluting their sacrifice.
To our wounded warriors and their loved ones, we will never forget your sacrifice. Our nation stands with you, and we are eternally grateful for your courage, your resiliency, your devotion to this mission and to our nation.
while Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth suggesting the attention to their sacrifice is political.
But when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad.
The White House announcing President Trump will attend the dignified transfer ceremony at Dover Air Force Base when the fallen troops return home. Courtney Cubie, NBC News, Washington.
Well, in the Middle East, we are only starting to get a sense of the human cost of the war. In Lebanon, UNICEF said on Wednesday that at least 7 children had been killed and more than 38 were injured in just the past 24 hours. UNICEF reports nearly 60,000 people, including 18,000 children, had been newly displaced in Lebanon, in addition to the tens of thousands who had already been uprooted from their homes. This comes as more than 12,000 families have found refuge in over 300 shelters across Lebanon, dozens of which have now reached full capacity. Joining us now to shed some light on this situation in Lebanon, UNICEF Deputy Spokesperson Ricardo Pires. He joins us from Geneva. Ricardo, good morning. Thank you so much for being here. So this region, the southern Lebanon and the border between Lebanon and Israel, it is not new that it is a region filled with tension and often filled with military action, but it really sort of became more of a battleground in the Middle East just this week on Monday when Hezbollah, the Iranian-backed militant group operating out of Lebanon, began firing on Israel. This is after the Ayatollah's death. In retaliation for that, Israel has since responded with strikes of its own and now even a ground operation, which is leading to a lot of this displacement. And UNICEF says children are really bearing the brunt of this escalating violence. How is this conflict impacting those kids and families?
Thanks for having me, Savannah. Good morning. As you mentioned, indeed, this is not new for children in the region, particularly in Lebanon. And the death toll is already mounting. You mentioned 8 children killed, 38 injured. That is heartbreaking for us to see again and again children paying the heaviest price in a conflict that they have no say or didn't ask for. Again, last year, or actually in 2024, children saw an escalation between Israel and Hezbollah, which impacted them, displaced them, uprooted them, made them lose their homes, family ones. Some of them lost their lives. And yet here we are again, asking for children to be protected and not be considered collateral damage in conflict. And when conflict breaks, it's not only their lives that are at risk and the protection issues that we're trying to tackle here, but, you know, they lose school, they lose access to school, they lose access to health services, they lose access to clean water, they're pushed away from their homes and they're displaced and uprooted and completely lost in fear and uncertainty. So again, it's heartbreaking and staggering that we are back to this situation and children are again at the forefront of this horror.
NBC News international correspondent Danielle Hamamdin, one of our colleagues, she's on the ground in Beirut overnight and into this morning. She says Lebanon was struck with its most intense bombardment since Sunday night. As this war rages on and as that may continue to be the case, we may continue to wake up and say that. How is UNICEF responding?
So we know what to do. We've been in situations like this before. Unfortunately, UNICEF is prepared to respond when we have access and safety to do our work. And that's exactly what we're doing in Lebanon since Monday, since the escalation started. We have increased our emergency response across the country. We are deploying mobile health teams to make sure that children who are on the move have still access to basic health care, that they can still be checked by doctors if they have vaccinations that need to be taken, that they can access that health service, and also to make sure that families are protected, that there are 300 displacement sites right now in Lebanon, new displacement sites that have been put together just because of this latest escalation. So we're making sure that we are reaching those shelters and also providing psychosocial services to children who are, again, trying to recover from trauma from 2 years ago or a little bit less than that. And now they're facing conflict, bombs falling from the skies again, and not knowing what their future will look like in the weeks and months to come.
Ricardo, real quick, how can people help?
Look, we need money. UNICEF needs funding to be able to continue our response. We have $48 million US dollars, an appeal of $48 million US dollars that needs to be met, and right now is not yet 100% funded. So you can go on UNICEF USA and donate to UNICEF so we can continue our life-saving work in Lebanon and across the region.
Ricardo, thank you so much for joining us this morning and the important work you're doing.
Thank you.
This morning, gas prices are rising once again as this conflict expands. It was just over a week ago when President Trump actually took credit for lower gas prices during his State of the Union speech. Well, now we're seeing a spike across the country with really no idea when this war will end. And economists are warning that the rising crude oil prices could also drive up inflation again. For more on what to expect, let's bring in Matt McLean. He's a petroleum analyst at the app Gas Buddy, which tracks gas prices and helps find the best deal for consumers. Matt, good morning. So you've talked a lot this week about how we are seeing both this volatile crude oil market and then also wholesale gasoline price exchange. Walk us through kind of the differences there. Give us that breakdown and how markets impact what we're paying at the pump.
Well, obviously, whenever you have a conflict that's right in the Middle East and affecting multiple OPEC plus nations, you're going to have a crude oil spike. There's just really no way to avoid it, especially when you throw in the Strait of Hormuz and all the uncertainty there, where 20% of the world's oil supply happens to make its way through there on tankers on a daily basis. Once crude oil spikes, then you start to see the reactionary price point for wholesale gasoline. It really doesn't have a choice but to go up from that point because obviously gasoline made from crude oil at that particular point. We are seeing prices at about $3.25 a gallon today. They could rise to about $3.35 to $3.45 where things stand right now. Even potentially bigger story, diesel rising to $4.25, possibly as high as $4.65 nationwide. That would be the highest since April of 2024.
About a quarter of the world's oil passes through what we have been talking quite a bit about now. It's this area called the Strait of Hormuz, this waterway right off the coast of Iran. Tanker traffic there has now slowed to a crawl because of the threat that any ship that passes through there will be attacked by Iran. We've seen the national average of a price of gas jump more than a quarter per gallon in just a week. Is there any way to know where we might be, let's say, a month from now? If this keeps up, do you just continue to see those prices climb?
You know, here's the thing when it comes to ongoing conflicts. No one knows each day exactly how that conflict is going to play out until the day is over. So when it comes to looking a month, 6 weeks in advance, it's really unwise as an analyst to try to throw a dart at a dartboard and hopefully hit the bullseye. There are just simply too many scenarios at this particular point to know exactly what we think is going to happen. All we can genuinely hope for, especially for consumers at this point, is that we do get this conflict wrapped up much earlier and try to bring a little bit of stability to the price point of oil and gasoline. But right now, we are continuing that upward trajectory.
Finally, just give us any tips here, any ways that we can offset these prices.
Best thing that we can do, lighten up the speed that we drive down the interstate. We're Americans. Most of us have a tendency to speed, especially when we're on the freeway, the interstates. The most impact you can have, pull back on your speed. Believe it or not, you would be very surprised at the fuel mileage increase that you'll get from that. Also, make sure your vehicle is roadworthy. We also have an app, Gas Buddy. We've even partnered with a lot of different partners that will allow for gas discounts as well. A lot of Americans are price sensitive. We've dealt with a lot of inflation over the last few years, so I fully understand and empathize that saving money is a very, very important thing right now for many American families.
All right, just slow down, guys. Matt McLean, thanks so much. Let's get you some weather now. It's time to keep those umbrellas out. Storms are expected for the rest of the week. We've got all your details with your Morning News Now weather and Angie Lassman here in studio. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hi, Savannah. Good morning. Happy to report I brought my umbrella this morning because of all of this. You can see that moisture moving across parts of the Northeast, stretching back as far as places like Missouri. And really, we've already got some of these alerts up for how heavy that rain is and the flooding issue that is likely to occur here as the morning goes on. 9 million people under these flood alerts. airports. Places like Paducah, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, you're in and out of the heavy rain. There's some lightning associated with that as well. And that's going to make the early morning commute a little tricky for that region. Here's one of the spots that we're going to be watching through the day today. I say one of them because we've also got the chance for some severe weather here. I'll show you that here in a moment. But notice there's still a wintry mix in some of these spots farther to the north. So there will be some icing that we see, maybe some slippery spots on the commute and even into the later parts of today across New England. As we look ahead to tomorrow, this is your Friday. Notice there's still some of this kind of rain and a bit of wintry mix across parts of the Midwest and the Great Lakes. We'll see widespread severe weather potential as we look to the parts of the South. Once again, I'll show you that here in a moment. And then by Saturday, more of this rain, and we've got heavy spots of that here, stretching anywhere from Texas to Missouri. But we will see some milder conditions up and down the East Coast when it comes to our temperatures. In the meantime, through tomorrow, here's the areas that I want you to watch to be slick on the roads. We'll maybe see some isolated power outages across New England because of that, and some heavy rain at least through Saturday in some spots. So upwards of 1 inch to 2 inches across parts of the South. So heads up for folks there. Not quite as much, but still a good soaking for folks across the Northeast as we get through the next couple of days as well. And this is something that I really want you to be focused on here as we get into the later parts of the day today. So your afternoon and tonight, this is the spot anywhere from Wichita to Lubbock, Amarillo included in that, Oklahoma City. We've got the potential to see some stronger storms. All the threats are on the table. We'll see a couple of tornadoes possible as well as the hail and wind. And that expands for tomorrow. This is a look at your Friday, finishing out our work week. 39 million people have the potential to see some of those strong storms. We're getting to that part of the season. So it's anywhere from the Great Lakes stretching down to the south, Dallas, Springfield, St. Louis, Chicago, a bunch of major cities included in that, Savannah. So that's how we'll wrap up our work week. Lots of things, it's that part of the season where we're kind of transitioning. So we've got some warm, we've got some cold, and it's popping up some of those storms.
Rain, so much rain.
I know.
This morning I'm like,
we
rain.
need it. We need
I didn't
it.
bring an umbrella, but I am wearing my rain jacket.
Okay, good. You listened yesterday.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.